Hello there, it's Friday, which means it's time once again for the best movie podcast ever, the only movie podcast to offer objective and hyperbole-free discussion of every movie in the known universe. I am your host, the podcaster with no name, Konrad, and with me as always, he lives his life a quarter mile at a time. That's right, it's Anthony James.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Anthony, La Familia, how the devil are you?
Not bad. You know what I would love though?
What's that?
10-second car. 10-second car. 2-second car. No, this is sorry. We're in Fast 9 now. It's a 2-second car now.
Yeah, the speed and the distance travelled has ramped up a fair bit since the heady days of the Fast and the Furious, and I can say that because I spent last weekend in the space of about 40 hours watching every single Fast and the Furious movie, so that we could come to you today and discuss Fast 9. That's right, that's what we're going to be talking about. It was an effort. It was an effort to do that, all right? I just want you to know, between you and me, that was some work. But it's not just that. We've got, obviously, some excellent features coming up for you, including your favourite of mine. It's Back to the Feature.
Yep.
If you get it this week, I'll give you the money myself. Honestly, like, it's...
I'll give you the money myself. That was always my favourite game show host line.
Yeah, there is no money will be changing hands, but I love that line, so I'm going to keep using it here. I'll try and bring it back as a catchphrase, hopefully. And we got some interesting news to talk about as well. We got Quentin Tarantino putting his foot in it once again and reigniting the debate about his treatment of Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Some news about last night in Soho, and there's another thing as well. Also, some Independence Day talk as well after that cropped up in Back to the Feature last week. But without further ado, I say, let's talk about some gosh darn movies.
Let's do it.
Movies, some of them have been delayed. Unfortunately, one of those is Last Night in Soho, which, if you remember,
Edgar Wright?
weeks ago? Yeah, Edgar Wright. We were talking about how the weekend of the 22nd of October may well kill me because of the number of amazing, or potentially amazing, films that are releasing on it. Well, the gods have answered us. The gods have heard our
Edgar Wright was listening.
Edgar Wright was listening and said, you don't want to... Fine, all right, fair enough. So as if in kind of a domino sequence, Last Night in Soho has been delayed by a single week to the 29th of October, which means that the 22nd might still kill me because it's still Jackass 4, Dune, and the French Dispatch. But at least this is out of the way. So it means we've got a lovely 2-weekend double punch coming up there.
So it's a Halloween release now. I wonder if it's...
I guess it is.
I wonder if that implies it's spooky in some way.
From what I've seen of it, which admittedly isn't very much, it does look a little spooky. It's certainly got atmospheric lighting. And Anya Taylor-Joy, you never know what you're going to get with her. She's got one of those faces where it's like she could be in a period piece, she could be in a slasher movie. She's just got one of those faces.
She should have been the lead in The Village, really. She should have been.
Oh.
Would have made that twist perfect.
Oh, imagine. Well,
although I do love Bryce Dallas Howard, but yeah.
Remake The Village with Anya Taylor-Joy. That's what the people want, M. Night.
It's basically The Witch, just with a twist ending.
Oh, I'm not sure. Okay. Fans of The Witch, don't write into me. Write into Anthony.
I like The Witch. Well,
clearly not that much because you just compared.
No,
it to
I'm saying
Village.
in terms of the period, Conrad.
Right.
In terms of the period piece, and you could actually say The Witch has a twist ending too. I will say actually.
Yeah, I guess you can kind of see
it's
it
almost
coming.
a twist. It's almost a twist because it's not a twist.
One
you
of
know
those
what I mean?
Shyamalan twists.
Yeah, you're actually expecting like a sort of a twist in that film, but it doesn't come, and it just keeps going down the road it goes, and it's like, oh, actually, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it goes in a dark direction that you can kind of see coming, and you're hoping it doesn't go in that direction, and then it does. It's a good movie for many reasons, but that's one of them. Other parts of the news sphere, there was some interesting stuff that came out this week which I wanted to talk about to do with Independence Day because it came up in Back to the Feature last week, obviously because we've just gone past the 4th of July, which is when their Americans kicked off and formed their own country, and good luck with that to them.
Well, they chose the day. It's a bit like Jesus' birthday. It's a date chosen.
Yeah, it was well before that they decided.
I'm sure some people from America are going to come in and say, actually.
That's what I want.
I'm pretty sure the Declaration of Independence was not signed on the 4th of July. That's what I'm alluding to. Maybe something Maybe something big happened on the 4th of July, but I'm pretty sure the Declaration of Independence was not signed on that day.
Yeah, I actually don't know what happened on the 4th of July, whether that was like the peace treaty to end the War of Independence or what. But get in touch, let us know. It's not a history podcast, but I always like to find these things out. But there was a very interesting kind of, what do they call it? It's an oral history in the Hollywood Reporter that's from Roland Emmerich, who directed it, and Dean Devlin, who was like one of the writer-producers, who basically revealed that at the time of kind of pre-production getting started, they had to fight studio execs at 20th Century Fox who believed that casting a black man would kill the international box office of Independence Day. Just to remind you all, it earned $817 million globally, so it didn't do that. But I think it just bears mentioning that, once again, people in charge of movie studios rarely know what actually goes into making a good or popular movie.
Well, exactly, and we've actually even alluded to it before. Like, these people are just in the wrong generation. Like, it's really bad that it takes them that long to sort of get to the top. Yeah. And then by the time they get there, they're out of the loop.
It wasn't like he was an unknown quantity. This was post Bad Boys. Like, he'd been in a movie before and that had done very well. $817 million. That's how wrong they were about it. I don't even like Independence Day. I think it's a bad movie, but it made its money.
Give them a bit of credit. They won $817 million. I'm sure they assumed it was going to make a couple of $100 million.
Well, I mean, not with him in charge.
So there were 600. We'll say there were 600 million wrong.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
They didn't think it was going to get zero. Come on, Konrad.
I mean, it might have done. I'll tell you who made some money on Independence Day, though, and that is Randy Quaid, who revealed in this same oral history that apparently he was gambling in a bunch of casinos in Utah while they were shooting, which sounds like the kind of thing Randy Quaid would do.
Was he walking into the casino like every night going, I'm back?
Great. A great joke that references the movie we're talking about. Let's hope so. The most surprising thing about this oral history, though, which, I mean, not me for six, maybe you won't be surprised by it, but it was revealed in it that Emmerich has a movie coming out next year called Moonfall, and it is a disaster movie, just in case the name doesn't give it away.
I was going to say, is it the sequel?
I mean, it's called
not the actual sequel,
it's called
but the real sequel.
Moonfall. So you figure out what the disaster in that movie is going to be. I guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the moon
Earth
is hit
falls
by...
into the moon.
No, I think it's going to be like the moon is hit by a meteor and then shatters, and bits of it rain down while the tides get all messed up. That's my guess.
Okay, sort of something similar to a little bit of a spoiler Academy of the Keeping the Rain Off Holdy thing.
Wait, hold on. What? Academy of?
Yeah, I'm not even going to specify any more than that because it is a huge spoiler for the show that I just was talking about cryptically.
Okay, I will leave that because I don't understand. What
someone's going to get it.
All right,
someone's going to get it.
Get in touch. Let us know. Let me know what clever point I've missed there. But the main thing in the news that I wanted to talk about this week, because it's something that I am quite passionate about, is Quentin Tarantino is a good filmmaker. I think we can all agree upon that. He makes very good movies for the most part. In fact, pretty much, I don't think he's made a bad movie. Jackie Brown, you could argue, is...
Oh, I love Jackie Brown.
Yeah, I'm not as big a fan of Jackie Brown, but like...
It's a different tone, definitely.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, he's a good filmmaker. So when I say this, I say it with love, but he's put his foot in it again by going on the Joe Rogan podcast and kind of reigniting the debate about how he treated the character of Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, basically saying, and to his credit, he did say before this that he didn't even want to respond to the question because he figured that's all anyone was going to talk about in the interview. And as it happens, he did respond to the question, and that is all anyone has talked about in the interview.
He predicted it.
He did predict it. So, maybe he should have predicted the...
fool him, really.
Yeah, exactly.
If he knew it was going to happen, why'd he do it?
But I mean, so the debate kind of started with Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter, who lives in her 40s now, who at the time the movie was released in 2019 basically didn't like the way it treated Bruce Lee. I think the core of her problem, or for those of you who haven't seen it, there's a scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where Brad Pitt's character, a stuntman, essentially fights Bruce Lee in a parking lot and kind of humiliates him, like throws him against a car and shows him up for a fraud. And Bruce Lee's daughter, in response to it, said, and I quote, "They didn't need to treat him like White Hollywood did when he was alive in that movie." Which, I can definitely see the point. I think the movie itself, I'm interested to get your take on this, Anthony, because the movie itself is obviously supposed to be like a Hollywood tall tale. It's not supposed to be fact. Not very little of what the movie depicts is reality, and that kind of feeds into the fantasy that it's creating. But I do think like the optics of a white guy humiliating one of the most important non-white movie stars of all time in an era where you didn't really get non-white movie stars is bad. I thought it at the time, and it doesn't really add anything to the movie either, I think, or it doesn't add anything that significant to the movie.
Yeah, it was literally just done for jokes. Literally, that's all it was. And I'm not gonna lie, I lauged at the jokes. I thought they were funny,
did too,
but I would have laughed at the jokes even if it wasn't Bruce Lee. Let's be honest, it didn't have to be Bruce Lee. But I think that, to be honest with you, it's a shame because we were talking about before we went on, and we're not going to talk about this film too much, but after the stellar job they did of portraying the Fantastic Man P.T. Barnum, I'm really surprised at Hollywood here. I really am, because they generally get it right in terms of representation, don't they, Konrad?
P.T. Barnum nailed in The Greatest Showman. Not a single... It was a warts and all depiction of him, and they definitely didn't whitewash his character in the slightest. Yeah,
I think I personally, to be honest with you, had no idea that this was even controversial, because whenever I bought into the narrative that this actually makes it even worse, Konrad, because I actually thought to myself, having watched the film, and this actually maybe shows why it is so difficult when he shouldn't have done it, is because I left that film thinking, oh, there must have been a little reputation of Bruce Lee of being a bit of a dick.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you say that, actually, because to quote what Tarantino has said in the Joe Rogan podcast, he basically says he understands why Bruce Lee's daughter got upset about it because it's her father, but he said everyone else can go suck a dick, which is, very literally said that, which is a very Tarantino thing to say. But it's interesting that you mention it, like, leaving you with an impression that maybe there were some rumors around Bruce Lee, because Tarantino literally claimed that the representation was based on fact, citing the biographer of Bruce Lee, a guy called Matthew Polly, who says when he says that stuntmen hated working with Lee and he had disrespect for them, but that biographer himself has actually said that Lee was very famous for being considerate to everyone on film sets. Now, I haven't read the biography, but when the person who wrote it is saying no, that's not, I don't know how you're getting that impression from this, it does seem that Tarantino grasped the wrong end of the stick. And the reason I wanted to talk about this was because I have a difficult relationship with Quentin Tarantino when it comes to his representation of what he grew up watching versus exploitation of what he grew up watching. So there's a rich tradition in Hollywood of movie execs exploiting Lee's legacy kind of posthumously, which Tarantino is 100% aware of. And I get that he makes movies referencing the stuff he grew up watching, which I think is, fine. Most filmmakers do that to some extent, I think. Which happened in his case to be a lot of blaxploitation and martial arts movies. But he also, I'll be interested to see your take on this, but I always feel like Tarantino, he seems to take some pleasure in casting himself as the white racist in a lot of his movies, and it often comes across to me as he's giving himself a pass to use very racist language because he thinks it's funny, which I don't know, when you view that repeated behavior and stuff like Django and in Pulp Fiction, I'm sure there's another one I'm forgetting about, and then look at how he treats Lee's character in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's I don't think you take this as seriously as maybe you should for someone who grew up watching these movies.
Yeah, and I think in the past there's been some accusations of sort of maybe racism towards him. I don't know if we can even say that word on YouTube. I don't know. We'll see. But there's accusations of racism towards him, and I think more Samuel L. Jackson has come out more than one time and said, he's not racist, all this sort of thing. I know him very personally. The thing is, though, is that I think there's a conversation to be had there whenever he does seem to take it so non-seriously.
Yeah.
I think that it is interesting because I remember watching an episode of a TV show where there was a very clear. It was set in 60s, and there was black people trying to go in and have dinner in a diner, and they were told to get out, and then the whole town sort of went against them and everything. And I remember watching that and thinking to myself, I would hate to play that diner owner, that white diner owner. That would be so awkward. Yeah. I would hate to be the person who had to say those words, even though I know it's probably good that it's shown on TV in that context. I would hate to be the actor who had to do it because I would feel so uncomfortable having these. You never know, maybe the black actors are actually going to get a bit of trauma from it because they're You never know. I'd just be overthinking the whole thing, and I would feel really uncomfortable. But he slips into it. And it's like, and that isn't like, there's no accusations being made here, but he does slip into it really, really easily.
Yeah.
And he writes the scripts. And I was actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking to myself, is his thoughts of how that stunt coordinator talked about Bruce Lee actually just showing his confirmation bias? Does he have like a cognitive bias towards seeing certain people as dickheads? Like, that's how
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know him. I don't necessarily want to stick up for him, but the impression I get with him is that he is so in the weeds of the kind of subgenres that he is used to making films that are referential of, that he doesn't see it as his responsibility as an artist to engage with the wider debate about, you know, why did blaxploitation have to exist? Why was it called blaxploitation? Well, the answer is Hollywood wasn't letting black people make movies, so they went and made their own movies, and you know they were schlocky and they were low budget, but they became very, very popular. And
now he's taken them.
Yeah, and he kind of takes the style and the tone of those, and he does it really well. But I think at some point he has, I'm not going to go so far as to say a responsibility, but it would be nice to see him have some forethought for how he treats people of color or characters of color in his movies. And the Bruce Lee one isn't the worst example. For me, the worst example is his character in Pulp Fiction, where he is a nothing character, but he just drops a bunch of racial epithets for no reason other than because he seems to want to do it. But I thought it was interesting that it's come back up again, and I think something that's worth not criticizing him over, but certainly, you know, reminding him of from time to time, because he's a good filmmaker and he can do better, I think.
Yeah, I'll just go on the record as well and say that I fucking love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, I do too. It's a great movie. Yeah. I love a lot of his movies, and I think he is respectful of a lot of the material that he's adapting. It's just a shame that there seems to be this kind of blind spot for him creatively, where he either doesn't want to or isn't able to see why he might be better served taking it a little bit more seriously.
And I have been personally slighted by him too, because he did play an Australian in Django Unchained.
I think he was. We've had this discussion
the West
before.
Dickie Mining Company. I read the script, Conrad.
I think he was playing it South African though, because he's
okay. Well, I, in the script, he was an Australian in the script.
Well, he went.
Did you know that? Did you know that he originally wasn't going to be that character? Originally, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was cast as that character.
Oh, wow, I can see why he didn't play it. Like you don't want. You don't want that on your resume.
He pulled out for whatever reason, but I actually read the script of Django Unchained a year and a half before it came out. It was leaked online.
It's a great movie as well, and yeah, another in a rich tradition of Quentin Tarantino playing a racist. But that's enough of that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
It's worth mentioning, but now we're heading into more fun pastures, let's say. As well, I mean, actually, I don't want to oversell this. I do not like this movie that we're about to guess here. But without further ado, yes, that's right. Of course you've guessed it at home. It's your favourite and mine. It's Back to the Feature! That's right, it's back again. Don't call it a comeback. You literally can't, because it was here last week. It is Back to the Feature, the exciting game show segment where I've selected a movie from 25 years ago today. Anthony has 5 opportunities to guess the name of the movie. He will hear 5 clues. Each clue he hears will reduce his score by 1 point. And of course, please play along at home. Anthony, are you ready to play Back to the Feature?
I'm ready.
Okay. As I said, if you get this, holy moly.
Even from the 5th clue, you don't think I'll get it?
I'd be honestly would be impressed. The 5th clue is I made the 5th clue as obvious as I possibly could on this, because I was like, there's no way he's getting it. But who knows?
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay. But the fact that you don't like the film makes me think that at least it will be recognizable.
Yeah, arguable.
Once I hear it,
arguable.
You know what I mean? Okay.
We'll see. Yeah, let's find out. So, clue 1. This movie was released on the same day as Independence Day, so this is technically 2 movies that are like quite close to each other we've done this week.
Okay. That's right.
With both movies featuring Brent Spinner, who was Data in Star Trek. So in Independence Day, he was the long grey-haired scientist man.
Oh. I didn't know that, actually. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They've had Right.
No, that's the.
I know. I just wanted to say it.
I can't know. I can never remember that guy's name. But he's got a great voice.
I know. I just wanted to.
I gotta call my mother. Yeah. That's an awful impression. I'm sorry.
Right. Okay. I'm not gonna get this based on that. Data is in it.
Yep.
That makes me think it might be something space themed. Galaxy Quest, I'm gonna guess.
It's not Galaxy Quest. Lovely mention. Lovely mention. The probably the best film in the Tim Allen.
There's no way you don't like Galaxy Quest is another thing.
Like actually, obviously Toy Story, but in the live action Tim Allen oeuvre, I'll say Galaxy Quest is probably the best one, unless you're a big fan of the Santa Claus.
I am. I've released a video on it before.
I know.
The Santa Claus one is good, but not as good as Galaxy Quest. I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Clue the second. If you didn't get on the first one, you're not going to get it on this one, but I'll read it out anyway, and we'll see how you do. So, I've done a bit harder
than the first clue.
I've done a bit of editorializing in this one as well. I do apologize. I couldn't keep my opinions to myself. Somehow, this movie earned $152 million at the box office.
It earned $152 million, even though it came out the same day as Independence Day.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I really have no idea, to be honest with you, at this point. I didn't follow the career of Data very closely.
No, he wasn't like a main character. I'll give you that for free.
Okay, he wasn't a main character. All right, well, I'm not going to get it then. Can you imagine if I actually knew that guy and I followed him really well?
Followed the career of Brent Spinner with great interest, yeah.
Part of me thinks it's an animated film. I don't think you would have that much of a dislike to an animated film. So, same day as Independence Day. Interesting. Summer film. I honestly don't know. I can't even... I don't know. Bloody hell. 96. July 96. I'm struggling here, to be honest with you. even having to guess off the top of my head. You know when you're under pressure, you can't think of anything? Yeah. Thinking of a genre.
We can take a pass.
Sleeping with the Enemy.
I don't know if I've ever actually seen that, but it is not Sleeping with the Enemy.
Julia Roberts running away from her domestic violent partner, who has a fantastic mustache. Okay. But it also is the film which the music video for Brown Eyed Girl. Hey, Where Did We Go?
Great, a lovely song, despite what Van Morrison might think of it.
Van Morrison is a bastard.
Yeah, Van Morrison is a grumpy old man, and you should not listen to his thoughts on anything.
He's from Northern Ireland, though, and my parents-in-law went to a concert of his one time, and he did the whole concert with his back to the audience.
Honestly, just a miserable old man.
In his home country.
All right, clue the third. We might get up and running here. Who knows? I don't think you'll know who this is, but maybe you will. Director John Turteltaub He directed Cool Runnings prior to this and would go on to make the Jason Statham shark movie The Meg. I was stunned by this.
Cool Runnings
and The Meg.
I do like Cool Runnings.
I do as well. John Candy.
Ironically, The Meg rhymes with egg, and in Cool Runnings, there's a lucky egg. Sanka, you dead?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so... That really doesn't tell me anything in terms of genre.
I've given you Brent Spinner. I've given you John Turteltaub. What more do you need?
I know. What more do I need? Like Turteltaub. Jeez. Okay. This is not it, because it's way too late. But we'll say... I was going to guess something there, but I know it's made in the 80s, so there's really no point in guessing. Home Alone 2. That's not the one I was going to guess. I know that's, anyway.
Lost in New
Home
York.
Alone 2.
This is
definitely not released in July, let's say that.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a Christmas film. I think they're both Christmas movies, right?
Yeah, well, they go away for Christmas.
It is not Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, but a lovely mention for a movie.
I'm just saying what's coming to my head at this point. Like Turteltaub, never didn't know his name.
It's the first Donald Trump mention on this podcast, I think, or a Donald Trump adjacent movie.
That's true.
Which knocks it down a few stars in my book.
Sad.
Yes, very much so. Okay, clue 4. This is the second time that John Travolta had appeared in a movie where the main character had telekinetic powers. The first being Brian De Palma's Carrie.
Telekinetic powers.
You're not going to get this. It's the only one. It was the only one I could choose from. I didn't have any other choices.
John Travolta with telekinetic powers, and it made over 100 million.
Yep. That should tell you how bad this movie is, that it made that much money and it has just been forgotten.
Oh my god. There's absolutely no chance of me getting this. All the John Travolta films from around that time are popping into my head on there's no chance he's got telekinetic powers in them.
Oh, Pulp Fiction. He might have.
No, it's not that one. Yeah. Get Shorty.
I don't believe... I will admit, it's been a while since I've seen Get Shorty. I don't believe he had telekinetic powers in that. But it is not Get Shorty. It's a great guess. Okay, last clue. If you, as I say, if you get it on this, I'll give you the money myself, because it's a hard one. I can only apologise. It's all I had to choose from. Travolta would follow this movie by playing an angel in Michael, also in 1996. So in 1 year, he played an angel and a character with telekinetic abilities.
Well, that doesn't help me with this film at all.
No, it doesn't. It was mainly it was mainly to tell you that this wasn't that.
Okay. Well, I didn't even know.
But if you didn't know what Michael was, it doesn't help you at all. Michael is worse than this movie, I will say that much, but only by a little bit.
Telekinetic powers. John Travolta. Is John Travolta... Can I ask you a question just here? Because we're on the last one, right? Can I ask you a question?
You can ask a
question.
Is
John Travolta the star of this film?
Yes.
All right, well, I'm not going to get it then. I'm literally not going to get it. I haven't had a 0 points since the very first week. And this is going to be my second 0 points. It's all right, okay?
You got to pick yourself back up after this.
Yeah, I'll get my 5 points eventually. What could I even guess? It's... I was going to say what women want there for just a joke, but kind of telekinetic. It's not really, I know that's Mel Gibson, but could have been Mel Gibson before his face reconstructive surgery. Because he did have that.
Did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because he was Mel Gibson was not that I'm advocating Mel Gibson, but he was attacked when he was a teenager or something like that, and he had to get facial reconstructive surgery.
Okay.
I honestly don't know. Let's just go for my joke guess would have Uncle Buck. Let's go Uncle Buck. Great film.
I'm referencing the Back to the Future computer. It is not Uncle Buck. I'm sorry to say that's a 0 pointer. I've entered it in. It is, of course, the smash hit of the summer. It is John Travolta's Phenomenon, a movie where he plays...
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
He plays... I'll tell you a little bit about it, because I suspected you might not have. He plays regular Joe George Malley, who sees a bright light in the sky and discovers that he has telekinetic abilities afterwards. And it's actually, not that far away in terms of kind of plot device setup and actual plot to What Women Want. Less comedy than What Women Want, but it's the same kind of thing where it's like, oh, I've had an accident, and then it's suddenly like, I'm super smart, and I'm having this interview with these people where I can, answer all these difficult questions. It's not a good.
That's
movie.
Sort of a half point.
No,
half point there.
We don't. Half points are for cowards. We don't do that on the.
John,
I know.
Come on.
Well,
Gibraltar.
You can complain about it, but I've given you one there because when Michael comes up later in the year, if you remember,
that's true.
One, you've got a 5 pointer in the bag there.
Next time John Travolta's name comes up, Michael.
Yeah.
How funny if that comes up and you mention John Travolta's name in the first clue. Oh my god!
I might do it. I might do it to balance this one out because I had no other choice than this one. There was a dearth. I suspect actually what happened with this is that everything got out of the way of Independence Day, so there was like a 2-week gap where it's just like we're not releasing a movie around this because this is making like $800 million. No one's gonna see anything else.
To be honest with you, Conrad, like I'm happy with that because now I know about this crazy film that I might watch one day. It's broadening my horizons.
Absolutely, I mean, it made that much money. It's got to be good. That's how it works.
It's got that is how it works.
It's got a 6.4 on IMDb. So make of that what you will. But that's gonna do it for this segment. I'm gonna move out of it with like a kind of funereal dirge of a mood because no one should be subjected to John Travolta's phenomenon. And
Phenomenal.
And then I almost did that. I almost did it, and I decided against it. But now, of course, what I'm going to do, we're in a funeral dirge mode, and I'm going to crank it into third gear, hit the NOS, because we're going to talk about the ninth Fast and the Furious movie, the return of Justin Lin to the franchise, F9. But that's what they called it. So, okay, Anthony, we need to do a credibility check as we did last week. You haven't seen
like golf. Yeah. The lower score you have, the more credibility you've got.
Yeah, exactly. So, how do I'm trying to think how to phrase this in a way that makes sense now. I'm just not going to do it. How many of these movies have you seen prior to this? Have you seen any of them?
Of what you mean of the 10 Fast and the Furious films, not 9?
Yes, exactly.
Because there's Hobbs and Shaw.
Yep.
I have seen Fast and Furious, The Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, you got to call it The Fast and the Furious because there's another one called Fast and Furious.
Yeah. So I've seen Too Fast, Too Furious.
Nice.
And that, let me tell you, that was pretty fast. Like,
yeah.
And then I saw Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift. They're the only 3 I had seen before this.
Okay.
So Conrad and I had spoken very briefly before we started. I've only seen them when they were still focusing on like kitted out cars, talking about the NOS, talking about the injection systems, focusing on basically mechanics who drive cars.
Yeah.
It very quickly went away from that, as I understand now, because I've seen the 9th one.
So that leads me quite naturally into my first. So from my point of view, I'd seen the first 3. I'd never seen the others. So I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything important this weekend. Let's watch every single one of these so I understand where we're going. And I saw the gradual shift from where it starts to where it ends up. From your point of view, this is essentially turned from a series about a street gang stealing Toshiba electronics into Vin Diesel is essentially a superhero who stops international terrorism. How did you feel about that shift?
This is something, Conrad, which I was not expecting. I knew it was still going to be about cars. I knew it was still going to be about, like, yeah, I know, to a certain extent. I knew it was going to be about trying to stop someone or trying to heist or something, right? But what I wasn't expecting is that this was literally a superhero film.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's not even. I mean, okay. I mean, I'm just gonna go into this now. So it is a literal superhero movie. This they've been kind of going this way since. So the first 4 movies, or actually less so the 4th one. The first 3 movies are kind of just car movies. The second one is stupid in a kind of very bro-ish kind of way, but it's still mainly about cars. I mean, they're trying to stop a drug dealer or catch a drug dealer.
Pierce.
Yeah, played by Cole Hauser, a white man. Just to point that out, playing an Argentinian. Just and then
Oh no, I'm talking about Roman Pierce.
Roman Pierce, as in Tyrese Gibson. Yeah.
Wasn't he the model in the toxic Britney Spears video?
Maybe. It's been a while since I've seen that.
Driving the motorbike.
Yeah, so Roman Pierce, is Tyrese Gibson's character. I've got a lot of names in my head, but then the third one is when it starts to get a bit stupid. The 4th one, they try to kind of reinvent it and ground it, but even in that, they're going after drug dealers, and then from the 5th onwards, it's just this escalating nightmare of superhero action. So I mean,
we are going to do non-spoilers, Conrad, for the first bit, aren't we?
Yeah, we're doing non-spoilers. We're not talking too much about what actually is happening in it. Okay. So yeah, I mean, how did that strike you, seeing characters performing literal superhuman feats?
It was absolutely, I'm gonna be honest with you, exhilarating. I really was not expecting this film to be what it was like.
Yeah.
I was completely blown away whenever they had a 3-minute intro at the beginning about like the backstory of Dom, Vin Diesel's character, and his father. And then we go to Vin Diesel, and literally within 30 seconds of being with him, he's now working for the CIA or whatever.
Yeah.
Within 30 seconds, I was like, all right, okay, we're right in now. And it just didn't stop.
No.
And it just kept going. It was so fast.
It is a fast and one might say a furious movie franchise at this point.
I'm gonna collect as we talk about it and go through it, and you lead me through this. I'm gonna collect my thoughts more. But oh my god, was it a change? And it was.
Yeah.
It's. You have to give them credit in a way. Like I'm just gonna come out and say that I did not like this film.
Okay.
But I enjoyed watching it. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that they have to give them credit is because they saw like Marvel movies changing what a blockbuster is, and they were like, yeah, we'll do that too.
Yeah, and to be honest, it is impressive what they did with this series, because if you watch the first four, like I think the first one, the second one, and the fourth one are the weakest in the series by a long way. The third one kind of knows how stupid it is, and I have a bit of love for it. But from the fifth one onwards, with the exception of Hobbs and Shaw, which is a separate thing that isn't very good, they find they find this kind of themselves in this arms race of ridiculous action set pieces, and they just lean into it in the most amazing way. And I really enjoy these movies. I think the fifth one, the seventh one are still the best ones, but the sixth, the eighth, and this one, I still enjoy. And I think you're here for. It's almost, they kind of are, I feel like they're kind of produced in the same way that Marvel movies are, where it's almost like this kind of factory line of how, like, what amazing set pieces are we going to have, and how are we going to create them, and then getting to the, like, you know, the next one is really the name of the game. Like, there's not that much that's tying these together apart from very broad, like, oh, this MacGuffin is going to give access to the defense network or something, and we need to stop the bad guy from having it, and that's and the bad guy's in Rome now, so we need to go there or whatever. You know, it doesn't have that much interest in it, but I can kind of respect how like bold-faced it is. It's just about just being, plot's not that important, don't worry about it.
Yeah, and I think I've doing a lot of reflection. Like, I'm going to be quite honest with you. I would prefer to watch the first one over this still.
Oh, really?
And I think, no, I would. And I think that's maybe nostalgia talking as well. Like, a lot of these films which came out around the time I was like 12 and 13.
Yeah.
It's probably literally just nostalgia talking. But I would prefer to watch the first one over this again, to be honest with you. Having said that, I was thinking about this, and while I was watching it, I was literally thinking this. You know, the YouTuber Lindsay Ellis, she has a video where she goes and talks about that she sort of is retroactively changing her opinion on the Twilight series. Yeah. Not that she's saying it's great, but she's talking about how the reason why the world shit on it so much, and the reason why she sort of put it at arm's length from herself, was because it's something for teenage girls, and as a culture, the West, maybe the whole world, actually, I'm not sure, but we say that things teenage girls like are silly, and we sort of really judge those things.
Yeah.
And while watching this film, I really got the impression, like, I was sitting there thinking, this is one of the stupidest things I've ever watched in my life. Having said that, I don't think, like, I'm sitting there thinking, like, oh my god, like, there was some people in the cinema who were fucking loving it, like, you know, absolutely loving it, and I had an impulse within me to be like, to judge them for that. And then I thought to myself, that's just me being all high and mighty. Like, these guys know this isn't a great film. Yeah. Like, these guys who love this thing because of how stupid it is, like, you know, they are not stupid. I need to get off my high horse, and I just need to be saying, it's just because I'm taking too much baggage into this film, whereas they're not.
I think, you know I think, like, I mean, that was definitely my, partially, I'm going to say, my aversion to watching it. I watched those first three when they came out, similar to you. I didn't really like them very much. And then I think I saw the fourth one and really didn't like it. And then I just stopped paying attention. And it got to a point where I was like, the series has passed me by. There's 9 of these now. I'm just never going to watch these movies. And then, God bless her, my partner was like, we should start watching these movies. And that began an odyssey this weekend where I went through all of them, and they are popcorn movies. You know, they're not that if you want, you know, a good acting or I'm not going to say it's bad acting, but anything above like passable acting or interesting characterizations or any kind of themes beyond family is important, which is literally like the only thing these kind of fall back on. You're just not going to get that from these movies, and it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of pointless like approaching them expecting anything else. But if you can meet them on their terms, I think there is stuff for you here. And I think I did enjoy this. I think so. The big like change in this one we've had in the previous 4 movies. So in 6, The Rock was the antagonist, not really a bad guy.
See, I haven't seen any of the Rock in it, so the Rock wasn't in this one, and I completely missed his whole little part in the films.
5, sorry. So The Rock is kind of heralded as like the franchise saver, because it was really in the doldrums after 4. No one really likes 4, and then 5 came along, and it is this amazing heist movie directed by Justin Lin, who directed this, and The Rock plays, I've forgotten his name now, which is awful, Lucas Hobbs. It plays this cop who's like pursuing them, basically. And unlike Paul Walker's character, Brian O'Connor, I think I've got all of these names have like been cemented in my frontal lobe in the last like week, so they're all like jumbling around for space. But unlike Brian O'Connor, he is very certain that he is a cop, and then he becomes kind of a sort of good guy in the 6th movie, and then very much a good guy in the 7th movie. But in the 6th movie, we've got Luke Evans as the villain, who's a very good actor. In the 7th movie, we've got Jason Statham as Shaw, who is one of the best villains in the whole series, and then the 8th we got...
Is Jason Statham's character, am I right in thinking this, and I saw this somewhere, is that the same character that he plays in those Driver films?
I don't think so. I mean, they might
there was a rumored scene in one film I heard. I didn't see it, obviously, but there was a rumored scene where it proved that it was the same character.
Okay. I mean, it might be like a little kind of Easter eggy thing where they're like, they're the same character, but not explicitly as far as I know.
Okay.
But then the 8th movie, you've got Charlize Theron. In this one, for whatever reason, there's no Jason Statham, there's no The Rock, we've got John Cena instead. How did you... I know you can't judge it against those previous performances, but how did you find John Cena as a villain?
I thought it worked okay, actually. Yeah. I think it worked okay. I liked it. I think from the trailer we know who he is. Yeah, I think we could talk about that even in the non-spoiler.
Yeah, he's Dom's brother.
He's Dom's brother, which I thought was funny, to be honest with you. I forgot about that from the trailer. Because
they just haven't mentioned for like 9 minutes.
Yeah, the ninth movie, it's like...
They do explain, to be fair, why he hasn't mentioned him and he's like been cast
Well,
out,
of course, they're going to come up with some nonsense. Yeah. Like, they're always going to come up with some nonsense as to why he's not been around, but it's just funny to me that he hasn't been. And also the fact that Dom's sister's in it, so she's not mentioned him either. But I thought he was good. I thought he was good. I thought he did well. I didn't like him in this as much as I like him in comedy roles.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think he did okay. What did you think about him?
I think I'm similar. I'm a little bit more harsh, actually. I think I'm not convinced John Cena has the chops to do anything other than comedy, which is I don't mean it to be totally damning of him as an actor. I've really liked him in Blockers. I really liked him in Trainwreck. Yeah, he was very funny in that. He's a really funny comedic actor, but playing serious, he just, particularly when you're coming into this having had The Rock, Jason Statham, Luke Evans, and Charlize Theron, who are all really good actors, or at least very charismatic actors. John Cena just doesn't have that same kind of charisma, and I think he struggles a bit here, which is a shame. But I mean, I feel like these movies can be defined by their action set pieces and the strength of their villain, basically. And unfortunately, I think one side of that kind of double act was a bit let down here. He's not awful, but he's not great either. I had a question for you here. This is a bit of a narrative side, or a bit of a questioning sidestep here, but I had to ask it because I meant to mention it earlier. Did you at any point start to wonder why so many people in this movie were using cars to cushion their falls?
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
Cars to cushion their falls, ropes to swing across a gorge in a car.
Yeah.
There's lots of cars doing things they shouldn't be. I'm going to just go out on a limb. I don't think if someone's flying through the air, you can catch them on a car bonnet.
No,
it's not like it's not a baseball mitt.
It's a rich tradition of these movies now that at some point, like in the 5th movie, Michelle Rodriguez's character is flung from a moving tank, and Vin Diesel is driving on the other side of like a freeway with like this big gap in between them. Michelle Rodriguez's character, the tank hits something and she's flung from it. Vin Diesel like fucking like handbrake turns it, throws himself off the hood of the vehicle, which he's also driving while he's on the hood, grabs her in midair, cradles her as they both smash into the windshield of a stationary car, and they both get up like nothing happened. And I mean, I've never done that. But I mean, these movies have basically convinced me that car windshields, maybe they have just very effective crumple zones that allow you to allow you to impact them without taking any kind of damage. But there is a lot of that in this movie.
Yeah, there is. Like, I mean, some of the stunts in this film are incredible, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I like. I did find myself thinking honestly though. Like, there's moments, there's a lot of, like, one-line quips, and there's a lot of, like, jokes, and there's a lot of, you know, like, saying cool things. And I thought to myself, if you're going to make a film that's just going to be stupid action and about family, all this sort of, like, really sort of lowest common denominator, but still pretty entertaining, if lacking in quality, why can't you actually get someone who can write funny jokes? Like, I didn't laugh once in this film, and there was a lot of attempts at humor.
Yeah, I think the humor in these tends to come from like the incredulity of the action rather than for like any actual funny lines. To be honest, Tyrese, is like the comic relief, and he is relatively funny at times. But I mean,
I didn't find him funny. I remember being a 13-year-old and finding him in Too Fast, Too Furious funny.
Yeah,
but I that's, to be honest with you, that's what I mean. Like,
the comedy hasn't advanced since then.
No, and his lines are the ones where they are really pushing for laughs in the dialogue. Yeah. The only time I laughed was literally like when a car flies across a gorge, like basically being like a car does a Tarzan impression.
Yes.
When an American muscle modded lowriding car trying to be inconspicuous is on a cobble street in Edinburgh, that gets a laugh out of me.
So, okay, we'll go back to that in a second then, because I do want to discuss the set pieces. But just as, before we get into spoilers, the general plot of there's a MacGuffin, it controls Ares, which is this thing that can like hack into every weapon system in the world. Did you like
even slingshots in the school playground?
Anything, they'll get it. Did that like hook you at all? I mean, it's a typical MacGuffin plot. It feels weird even asking, but did you have any investment
in terms of the plot in general? Like films like this, I don't ever actually even think about the plot because I know what's going to happen.
That's the correct way of thinking about it.
I know the steps. What's going to happen? Like there's going to be no Shyamalan twist, but it sets it up.
Yeah,
they go and try and do it. They fail. They try and it's the exact same steps as every other film I've ever seen. Yeah, so I'm not really.
Well, I mean I think that's the correct answer to that. The plot is nothing. It's just there to get you to the next set piece. But I think now we're gonna have to dip into spoilers because there's some things I need to say about this movie that I can't do without spoiling certain set pieces. To be honest, it's not really the kind of movie that you can spoil very much of because the enjoyment is in the spectacle anyway. But yeah, warning to anyone who wants to go and see this, check out now.
Well, the thing is, the first thing we'll say in the spoilers then is that it's not just about the set pieces. This is spoiler, I will remind you. It's also about the reveals. Because every single, like maybe 50% of the lines in this film reveal something. Someone's not dead. Someone is misrepresenting their past.
Yeah.
Someone's lying. So, someone,
the absolute classic. Well, this isn't quite that, but like I always joke about how any exposition film scene in this film is basically how do we get to the next action scene, and literally every single one ends with someone proposing a problem and then someone proposing a ridiculous solution to that problem, being like, what are we going to do, fly a ship into space? And then another character going, that just might work, and then cuts to the next cuts to the next scene. That's literally every exposition scene in this entire series, and it just like because there are no rules. There's no rules, so yes, a car goes to space in this movie. Like it's and that's that. When I say that a car goes to space in this movie, That's not even the most. To me, that's not the most ridiculous thing about that sequence, because they strap a rocket to a ship to I don't know why it has to be a car. They strap a rocket to a car that Tyrese and Ludacris are piloting, and they need to go and mess with a satellite at some point in this movie. The satellite or the rocket ship responds to the steering wheel and the clutch for some reason. I don't understand how they got the mechanics of that working. But the dumbest part of that entire thing is that Lucas Black and Bow Wow, or no, actually it's not Bow Wow, it's the other guy from Tokyo Drift. They're just pilots in this movie. They just know how to fly planes now. Yeah. No. Ludacris and Tyrese are like Lucas Black, the guy from Tokyo Drift, is just like, I can just fly a fucking Hercules cargo plane in this. It just. Nothing is explained. It's so.
Well, I think is that more unbelievable than someone who's never driven being able to perfectly go have a road race?
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go through the set pieces here because I don't want to jump around too much. So first off, the jungle I can't actually remember where it is. It's somewhere in South America, I think. They get.
Question.
Sorry, say that again.
Question.
Okay.
Just to the jungle thing.
Okay.
Is this the first Fast and Furious movie to seriously play with the idea of magnets?
I think it is. And they get their money's worth out of those magnets. Holy moly, they do. They turn up in Edinburgh and then they're back in a big way for the sequence in Tbilisi. When
John Cena's car got sucked into a plane with magnets, whenever he flew off the edge, they picked him up with a plane. I was honestly, up to that point, they'd been conscripted by the US government secretly to go and, they're the only people in the world who could fix this problem. I was like, okay, all right, this is mental. I'll go along with the ride. It's a superhero film now. Then they did some mental stuff, drove along a bridge in a really heavy car while the bridge was falling. That's not how physics works. I was like, okay, that's fine. I audibly laughed in the cinema when John Cena's car drove off the edge of the cliff and was picked up by a plane with magnets on the bottom. Well, I couldn't hold in the laughter.
Okay, so to catch everyone up, the crew. Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez, Dom Toretto and Letty are retired. Then suddenly, and they're retired with Dom's son by Elena, who died in the last movie.
I don't know who that is.
Elena, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. For all intents and purposes, this child is Michelle Rodriguez's child now. It doesn't, or Letty's child.
That's what I assumed until I found out about someone else.
So they're retired on a farm because, that's how you imply that people are living the simple life now. Characters turn up, say, there's been trouble. And then, they're off to the races. They have to go and find Mr. Nobody's downed plane. That's Kurt Russell. Mr. Nobody's downed plane. There's some fucking orb on it, or half an orb, that lets you, when combined with the other half, lets you control all the weapon systems in the world. It gets stolen by John Cena, and a chase sequence ensues. As Anthony says, there's a moment where they're driving across a wooden rope bridge that is collapsing underneath them. Dom Toretto, seeing this, his natural instinct is to be like, I can fucking ramp that. And so he hits one of the bridge posts, hooks somehow onto one of the ropes holding the bridge up, kind of swings around and lands safely on the other side of the ravine. Also, apparently, in an area where he has diplomatic immunity because the helicopter's pursuing him, just turn back at that point. We can't cross.
It's also after...
after John Cena's car ramps off of the side of the ravine.
Yeah, well, that does happen, get picked up by a plane with magnets, but it's also after they all drove through a minefield.
Yes, sorry, I forgot that bit. Yeah, they drive through a minefield, and they're basically Ludacris, who... In Too Fast, Too Furious, Ludacris's character is just a guy who knows Paul Walker, knows Brian O'Connor, calls in to compete in a race. That's all he does. He's an organizer. By this movie, and to be honest, throughout from the fifth movie onwards, he's a hacker. He's a hacker, astronaut, genius. He's able to on the fly figure out the fuse time of and the radius of these mines, so that he can be we need to drive at 78.5 miles an hour to get out of the blast radius after hitting these mines. And then they turn it into a plot device because Tyrese is driving a big APC that can't go that fast, and there's just pray. And
then it gets wedged between two rocks, and he's gonna fall on, and there's the landmine, and it's the biggest, most obvious landmine you've ever seen in your life.
You might as well say Acme on the front of it. It's ridiculous.
It looks like something that Mario needs to pound to get a star or something, you know.
Yeah, so then the next big action set piece, Edinburgh, obviously, like the beautiful cobbled streets of Edinburgh, and those electromagnets, they come back in a big way. Also, did you enjoy John Cena having the world's longest zipline sequence? He steals the second half and then zip lines out of the building to another building that he's then zip lines from to another building. He just keeps zip lining. It's like he's going to get to England in a minute if he keeps doing this. Yeah. Like, just zip lines his way out of Edinburgh.
Well, are you telling me that Edinburgh isn't in England? Because that's definitely what they were implying in the film.
Yeah, they don't. They don't seem to know.
No reference to anything. Like, they're talking about London, then they mentioned Helen Mirren's in it. Apparently,
yeah.
So they
Helen Mirren is Jason Statham's mum. She plays Queenie. Come on. Gotcha.
Okay, fair enough. So Helen Mirren, they ask her about something about Edinburgh. All of a sudden, she knows everything about Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And then so John Cena's like, he must have left these like
he positioned zipline guns.
Zipline guns on buildings, like, you know, he's ziplining. Oh my god, that was hilarious. He's ziplining for a good 10 minutes of the film.
And I can never remember her name. The hacker lady from she was in Game of Thrones. Melisandre in Game of Thrones. Ramsey, that's it, yeah. So she has never driven before, but through hilarious circumstances, she ends up driving a big van with an electromagnet in the back of it and has to keep up with John Cena. That she's able to not only just drive it, but drive it relatively well. She just crashes into a few things and it's kind of fine.
She's an actress actually that I didn't know was in this, and apparently she's been in it since like the 7th one or something.
Yeah. She was a hacker who created the God's Eye, which is a piece of software that lets you see through any camera in the world that they've since just kind of relegated to the background.
Yeah, I think she's like the English. I think this technically, Conrad. I think I'm going to go out on a limb here. She's the English Margot Robbie now, because Margot Robbie started out on Neighbours, and now on the soap opera Neighbours. Now she's like a huge star.
Oh, and she started on Hollyoaks.
And Natalie Emmanuel was Hollyoaks.
Yep.
She's the English Margot Robbie.
Yeah. Long may it continue. She's good in this, and she's funny. I enjoy it. But yeah, so I mean that's that Edinburgh sequence, and then those electromagnets come back in Tbilisi in Georgia, where they're just fucking like. These magnets, they might as well be Mario Kart power-ups for how they use them. They're just like to like draw cars in and then pumping them up to send them flying. It is an incredible
when they
sequence.
Literally sucked a car through a whole building. They sucked the car off through a whole building.
Yeah,
I was like, these magnets are way too powerful.
Yeah, that would take your arm off if like it's if it actually like took your watch or something. Yeah, I mean the action sequences are amazing. I guess like the natural place to go next then is I guess it is still an action sequence, but in the sort of Mr. Nobody's secret hideout when Vin Diesel
the fuck is Mr. Nobody?
Mr. Nobody is Kurt Russell, all right? For God's sake, keep up. Mr. Nobody's secret like CIA hideout, or whatever it is he works for. Vin Diesel, as is tradition in one of these movies, he nobly sacrifices himself. And he literally pulls the ceiling down on chains. Like the Incredible Hulk. Like how it's ridiculous. Like there
was no need for him to not go through the hatch.
No.
Like there was no need for him to stop. There was no need for him to turn around. There was no need for them to give us a full 3-minute flashback as if he's gonna die and then have him be saved immediately. Like there's no need for any of this stuff. But it was okay. Like it was all right. I will say, like we did mention at the beginning, but it is ridiculous how much like a superhero film this is. Like this, like they've got Mr. Nobody as a bad guy. They've got Cypher. who's Charlize Theron. Yeah. They've literally they're starting to build like a pantheon of villains. Like it's crazy.
This is I used to say this jokingly, and I actually genuinely believe it now. Do you remember like the movie series The Expendables? Where it was like getting all the action heroes together into one big team. I think Fast and Furious has kind of become what The Expendables wanted to be.
I thought the exact same thing. I'm going to be honest with you. When I was watching this, I thought to myself, "This is what Expendables wanted to be."
Because Expendables was. The first one was okay, but it was never that entertaining. And this is like, we've got like we're getting this expanding cast, and as is tradition, not to jump ahead of ourselves, but as is tradition in this movie, the bad guy will turn good at the end of the movie and join the crew. It happened to The Rock, it happened to Jason Statham, and now it's happened to John Cena at the end of this movie, because it's about family, and he's Dom's brother, so I expect him back in Fast 10, which is a two-parter, by the way. Is it? Yes, it's divided into parts 1 and 2. Justin Lin is directing both of them, apparently.
Hang on, why?
I listen. I had this exact same conversation with my partner when she told me. I was like, I understand if you're like adapting a single book, like the Deathly Hallows, and you're splitting it in half, so you'd be like Deathly Hallows part 1. But you're writing the screenplay for this. It doesn't need to be a 2-part movie. Listen, I don't know.
Are they implying that this is gonna be like the last one? Maybe.
No, absolutely. There's no way. Are they? The amount of money these movies make, there's no way they're making that the last one.
I unironically, right, or maybe a little ironically, but I actually want this to go forever. Like, I would love
like James Bond.
And maybe it is like it is like maybe a terrible thing to happen to the film industry. But I think it would just be so funny if we're sitting here in 30 years with Fast and Furious 23 or something. Like, I think that would be hilarious.
Like Dom Toretto. I mean, he looks old at the moment because he's like in his 50s now, Vin Diesel. But like him in like his 70s doing like the Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones thing where it's just like, it's about family.
No, it'll be Little Brian. Little Brian will be the one.
It could be Little Brian.
Little Brian is going to be the star of a Fast and Furious film one day. I'm telling you that right now. I think Little Brian is going to be there. I think that it'll be really interesting if in like the 16th film, if they're still doing like the turn to the camera and smiling, saying he's here now. Yeah. Like in reference to Paul Walker playing Brian.
Yeah.
I thought they actually did that quite tastefully, to be honest with you. I actually quite liked that they didn't just kill him because he died in real life.
Oh yeah, like the 7th movie where he died during the filming is legitimately very touching. Like the way, and they handle his death very well. I do like the fact that he gets like those references. You know, like they're keeping him as part of the family, even if he obviously can't be in it.
Yeah, no, I think that, but it's just gonna be interesting if like I'm interested to see what will they eventually just like stop mentioning him altogether.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, at the moment he's relegated to babysitter duty because like Letty and Dom have a kid. They go off on this mission. Like Letty goes first, and then Dom turns up at the airport. The child isn't mentioned at this point. It's only a couple of scenes later where they're like, Brian's got it. Like, don't worry, Brian's
I know what you mean. You say relegated. For me, to be honest with you, if I was given the option to swing across a gorge with my car attached to a rope, pull chains of a ceiling down, and then almost die being drowned, jump through a window on Edinburgh's rooftop.
How does no one get hurt during that?
I'd probably choose to stay home and watch Disney Plus.
Yeah, but that's not his. That's not in his nature. He's an adventurous spirit.
It's not who we are. Yeah, it's not who we are.
He's his brother. He's his brher. And he's just the babysitter now, but the off-screen babysitter. But I mean, yeah, it is nice to get a mention. And talking about family, obviously, this is the big reveal in this movie. So again, spoiler warning if you're still here for some reason. Han is back. That's right. They figured out how to undo the plot point that they were always trying to work their way around from Tokyo Drift. So, yeah. Anthony, you won't know this, but obviously Han dies in Tokyo Drift, and
I saw Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, but then the later movies are actually set before Tokyo Drift because Han was such a popular character that they wanted to bring him back. So 4, 5, and 6 are set before Tokyo Drift, and Han is a living character in those movies. Then in the post-credit scene of 6, it's revealed that Jason Statham killed Han, and in 7, it's the post-Han death. And then 8, obviously, like 7 and 8, he's not in it, and now in 9, they found out a way to bring him back, which is
Mr. Nobody.
Yep, Mr. Nobody. Thank God.
Bloody Mr. Nobody.
Yep, but
did Mr. Nobody die in the last one?
No, Mr. Nobody is probably still alive. Like, because he was in the plane that crashed, he just wasn't around. So, which I presume means they couldn't get Kurt Russell.
What's with Charlize Theron? Is she like the Joker or something? Like, what's with her?
She was the villain in the last one. She was a hacker who killed Elena, who is Vin Diesel's or Dom Toretto's. Who was okay? So Elena is the Brazilian police officer who was working with The Rock in Fast and Furious 5 to try and catch Dom Toretto, and Letty, Michelle Rodriguez's character, died in Fast and Furious, which is the 4th one.
She did.
and Dom moved on from that, eventually found a romantic involvement with Elena in Fast 5. Well, less so. It's hinted at in 5, but by Fast and Furious 6, they are romantically involved. But then in Fast and Furious 6, oh no, Letty's alive in Luke Evans's gang, and he has to try and convince her to remember him because she's got amnesia, as it always happens. And Elena's like, you go, get her back because you're married to her or whatever. And then in Fast and Furious 8, it's revealed that Elena had a child with Dom, but didn't tell him about it because he was going back to Letty. So Elena,
but he was still able to name it Little Brian.
No, he calls it Brian at the end of Fast 8, I think. So
change its name.
Well, no, yes, it was. She called it by its middle name, Marcos, and but he names it at the end of the movie because she is killed by Cypher, and then Letty and Dom adopt the child and name it Little Brian after Brian O'Connor, which is Paul Walker's character.
What was the baby's first name?
It didn't have one. She said she called him his middle name, which Elena called him his middle name, which was Marcos, and said his dad should give him his first name, and he called it Brian.
Of course. And
listen,
okay.
I am fucking deep in the weeds on this now, right?
You're making me want to go watch them all now.
They're not bad, but I mean, yeah.
I probably would say they are bad. I don't want anyone to leave this podcast thinking that I love this series.
I like these movies now. I'm not ashamed to admit it.
One of us has to say they don't because I haven't seen most of them. This film was mental. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah. It came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it to be a superhero film. It was a superhero film.
Yes, it was.
And I still don't know where to put that in my mind. And the thing is, like, a superhero film, isn't it interesting that Fast and Furious does they're nowhere near as good as the Marvel films, but Fast and Furious does superhero films better than DC at the minute. I
think I would put them up there with the Marvel movies, to be honest.
Nah. No way for me.
I find them like less. They're less like. No, that's not true. I was going to say they're like less kind of manufactured, but that's not true at all. I think I'd watch a Fast and Furious movie before like Black Widow, for instance.
Well, I did watch it before Black Widow because I'm going to go see Black Widow this week.
Oh, okay.
And I went to see Fast 9 last week, so I did watch it before Black Widow. But I think I would disagree with you. To be honest with you, maybe that's as well because I'm not a comic book reader, so therefore I just like feel like I am with the Marvel films.
Yeah.
Like, I love watching everything because then it means I feel like the universe is around me and everything, which you have had with comics in the past. Yeah. I never have, so I sort of have that attachment to it there. Fast and Furious to me feels like I probably would agree with you. Like, the level of it is probably the same as like a low tier Marvel, probably.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'd have to reflect on this and see, because I like my opinion of superhero movies really changes from movie to movie. But yeah, we'll see. When we get around to talking about Black Widow, maybe we'll be blown away by it. But yeah, any closing thoughts then from you on either Fast and Furious series phenomenon, like anything that you want?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the one thing I actually wanted to mention was the funniest moment of the whole film for me, and it wasn't meant to be funny, but the funniest thing in the whole film for me was whenever I can't remember exactly if it was in a flashback or not, but Dom, Vin Diesel's character, was being explained or told why Jacob, John Cena's character, his brother, was sort of jealous of him or sort of lived in his shadow.
Yeah.
And the first thing that they mentioned was like, you've always been faster.
Yeah.
Then they went faster, more. I was like, more furious. Like, they didn't say furious, but they were like, you've always been faster. And I was like, what is this like?
He's very fast. He's a very fast driver. That's like how they remind you that this movie is still ostensibly about cars. This movie series is still ostensibly about cars.
Everything has also I love like that his dad was also a racer. Yep. But like also another thing which is also hilarious, when teenage Dom is on the headset, right, when his dad's driving around, it's literally like the track is basically NASCAR. It's just an oval track.
Yeah.
And his dad's driving, right, and it's like, well, he knows what's coming up. Like, it's the same, you just turn left the whole time, right? And don't
tell that to NASCAR drivers.
Yeah, and his dad, like, I know, it is difficult, I know, but the teenage Dom is talking to his dad on the headset and goes, "The left's coming up, Dad, left's coming up." And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is an oval track. He's driving around the same direction the whole time. You don't need to tell him the left's coming up. You'll be telling him that every 10 seconds.
He's going to get pitted into the wall by that son of a bitch who he beat up with a wrench.
Doesn't change the fact that the track never changes.
No.
Left's coming up, Dad. Come on.
I can't. Yeah, I can't speak to the difficulty of driving those, but it is quite funny giving advice to someone who's literally just driving in an oval for just put the parking the parking lock, the steering wheel lock on the handlebars, so it's just 45-degree
also,
angle.
like the ups and downs of the Jacob tampering with the engine storyline.
Unbelievable.
It's hilarious.
Unbelievable.
I think there was 5 twists in that story.
A Shakespearean tragedy. The thing that really annoys me about that story is that it turns out that Dom was wrong, and never once does he say sorry to like Jacob for like essentially kicking him out of his home and sending him away from his family for something that could have been resolved with a simple conversation.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I thought actually did think it was quite cool the moment where like the ultimatum of like, if I win, you keep driving.
Yeah.
And like and I took that as a metaphor, but then when
he goes,
he literally just kept driving. I was like, actually, I actually quite like that visually.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good, and I think those two younger actors played the parts pretty well. It's nice to have confirmation that Dom Toretto has literally never changed his fashion sense. Like he was wearing white vests and short sleeve shirts when he was 16, and he's wearing them when he's 53. It doesn't matter. Yes. Okay. Well, I think that's probably gonna do it for us here for discussing Fast 9. I enjoyed it. It sounds like Anthony perhaps slightly less so.
It's hard. It's a hard one. It's a really weird grey zone where I didn't dislike what I was watching, and I have to sort of get off my high horse about it. But at the same time, I really like. There was no risk in this.
No.
The script was not good. It was full of tropes. But you know what? Is that a bad thing? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think go in knowing what you're going to get, and you probably already know if you're going to enjoy this movie, to be honest.
Yeah.
But this leaves us then with one simple question to answer, as we always do on the Best Movie Podcast Ever, which is, of course, Anthony, what's your favourite movie?
The Greatest Showman.
Oh no, mine's Fast 5. That movie's great. I don't care what anyone says.
Is that what's called, Fast 5?
Oh my god! Okay, so it's the Fast and the Furious. No, so it's the Fast and the Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious, the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious, Fast 5, Fast and Furious 6, Fast and Furious 7, Fast 8, F9. The Fate of the Furious is also kind of sometimes called Fast 8, and then F9. There's just no consistency. Anyway,
Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw.
Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw. It's a spin-off now.
Yeah. It's funny they say Fast and Furious presents, but now in the new poster it says F9 the Fast Saga. So like they didn't even say the Fast Saga.
There's no rules.
It's mental. But I don't know listener, you'll know what I titled this podcast. I have no idea what I'm going to call it. Should I go with F9? Should I go with Fast and Furious 9? I don't know what. You'll see.
Yep. Let's find out together. I'll be looking forward to finding that out as much as the listeners. Oh my goodness. Thank you to Nancy Wyatt and Jared Iscariot for the use of our theme song. Check out their stuff in the link below. And thank you to you for joining us. Please consider subscribing. We are the Best Movie Podcast Ever on podcasting apps, and we are the Culture Cave on YouTube. And get involved in the comments. Let us know what you've been watching this week and what you thought of this movie if you saw it. And we will see you same time, same place next week.
And cut.